As anticipated, Michigan is headed to the Citrus Bowl to face Texas. We'll give some early thoughts on that and more on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group, and we are going to get into when I say get into, we're not going nuts. We're not going absolutely nuts, but we're going to give some early thoughts on Michigan playing Texas in the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. I'm particularly excited about the matchup. I'm excited about the game. I think there's a lot to like about it going into all of it. Then we're going to get into some things that Sharon Moore said in segments 2 and 3, including, but not limited to, some of the potential returnees next year, some of the freshmen who could really be standout guys this upcoming season, as well as the revelation that, hey, maybe there is another coach that could be added to the fold. So we're going to get to those in a moment. Thank you to all of our everydayers. You're going to want to check out the new Everydayers Club. We'll have more details on that. That will allow you to listen to this listen to this show ad free. And then also thank you for making us your first listen. So let's get into it. So first off, Michigan announced against Texas. This has been ruminated upon. Not the same type of rumination that I have for a flight that's 2.5 weeks away, but it's been planned for some time that, hey, everything goes this way. It's going to be Michigan in the Citrus Bowl. If they lost to Ohio State, that was going to probably be the case. And then the question was Texas, who did finish strong, did beat number 3 Texas A&M. They were number 3 at the time in the final game of the season. Looked incredible in doing so. I saw a little bit of that game. Texas has come on in the late stages of the season. So I love this matchup, not necessarily in terms of like, man, I think Michigan can take it to Texas. I don't know that that's the case for sure. But I love this matchup because number one, I love that. I loved going to a warm weather area for a week of like, hey, celebrate it all. It's something like I talked about on Saturday with the whole bowl game of it all. I miss the days when it was just like a bowl game was a reward for your hard work and the teams get to do a bunch of fun stuff. And I understand college football's changed. I wish it would change back. But if you're not going to be in the college football playoff, I think this is the best place you can go, to be honest. It's like the highest level of the non-playoff games that the Big Ten has that direct involvement in, now that the New Year's Six is all tied into the playoff. So if you're not going to make it into like, you know, what it used to be, like the Peach Bowl or the Cotton Bowl, whatever it might be, Fiesta Bowl, then this is where I think like it's a great place to end up. And I think it's a great opponent because, like I've said time and time again, I want those name brand matchups. I say that while also noting that like Indiana, I think, is the best team in the country. There's a reason why I picked them. It wasn't just to hate on Ohio State in the squads show last week. I just looked at it and said, okay, I think that Indiana, if you put a Texas helmet on them, people would be being like going nuts, being like, this is like, no one's going to beat this team. And, because they just were running roughshod all over everyone. But there's a reason, even though like Vanderbilt's been very good this year, there's a reason why I would prefer to play Texas over Vanderbilt. And it's because I want all eyes on a game like this, because I think what it does is it sets Michigan up for a situation where it is forced to improve as much as it can. Sharon Moore talked to today is like, we're not about like trying to get younger guys experience. We're about trying to win this game. And I still think that that's the right move. I know that others want to say, hey, I want to see what the next group looks like. Last year, they managed to get that a little bit, although it didn't quite work out the way that it looked against Alabama last year. This year, in terms of like the defensive front, I mean, it was good. It wasn't as dominant as it was in that game. But at the same time, I love the idea that you're going to face off against like a high caliber team. And Texas sounds like they're approaching it kind of the same way. So I love that. I think that we need more of that. That's what college football is all about. And I know that everything's changing. It's changing for the worse, right? Like this idea of like, oh man, like Texas shouldn't have scheduled Ohio State at the beginning of the year because that is why they're not in the college football playoff. I mean, so you're going to sit there and say, I'd rather schedule some also ran group of 6 team or whatever it is, so that maybe I can play that team that I played in week 1 in December or January. No, I don't like that. I would much rather have, and I've been saying this for a long, long time here, I would rather have those big caliber games early in the season. And then you got your conference schedule, and it's also a barometer, right? Like it's a playoff within the regular season. And that's what college football used to be. It used to be all about having essentially like you don't have much room for error. You maybe have a little bit once it expanded to 4, but like when it was just the 2, the BCS, you had no room for error. But now you have a little bit of room for error. Now you have more room for error. And I hate that. Like it should be about rewarding excellence in the regular season. The regular season itself was the playoff. Now, it's interesting looking at where Texas ranks across a lot of the metrics. I haven't done a deep dive on it yet, but it's funny because like they're kind of like along where Michigan is in a lot of different spots, right? Like they've got a lot of places where you look and you say, okay, their offense is technically not as good as Michigan's. Their defense is technically not as good as Michigan's. It's close. But we also know if you've watched Texas, especially in the last month, that Arch Manning has come alive. And this is a great opportunity for the Michigan defense to try to figure some things out, to try to get ready for it, and it's a barometer. And yeah, the way that Michigan finished out the season, it's hard to have super high hopes. But I mean, Texas took Ohio State to the brink, right? They only allowed 14 points, granted, first game of the season, so it's a little different. I think that they've got great skill players. They've got really strong line play on both sides of the ball. This is a great place to tell yourself, this is where we're at. And if for no other reason, let's say Michigan loses this game, it doesn't go well, whatever, this tells you that much more. This is what we need in the transfer portal now that the transfer portal starts 2 days after this, to say like, okay, Michigan, this is what we need to get in order to be able to compete with teams that are at least, you want to be beyond this caliber, but teams that just missed that cut. I mean, Alabama was that last year. You kind of thought going into the season this year, it was going to be a little bit different, but because it was like, okay, you just need an offense, you need a quarterback. They got that. And Michigan's still kind of, I mean, it's a rung up. It's got one more win. It's in a higher profile game than the ReliaQuest Bowl. No offense to the ReliaQuest Bowl, but at least it gives you the ability to kind of gauge where you're at. Now, maybe Texas shows up and said, maybe they have a bunch of opt-outs. I don't think that Michigan's going to have a bunch of them. And maybe Texas will be like, well, we really wanted to be in the playoff. Sark was lobbying for the playoff after beating Texas A&M. Didn't work out that way. Maybe they're down a little bit. It doesn't always work out that way. We saw in 2019 against Alabama that doesn't always work out that way. But I love having this game. Give me the big name matchups every time, because it also tells you where you're at as a program on top of, potentially finishing the season on a high note. You beat Texas, everything's going to feel good for 9 months, which, you don't want it to mask any deficiencies in that, but you also would rather be like, okay, we lost to Ohio State, but we beat Texas. Things feel good. Things feel like they're on the right track. Think back to 2015. I know it took 6 years before Michigan got where it wanted to go after that, but the vibes will be better. And that's also the thing. And this is one of the things I just miss in college football, right? It wasn't like, all the teams like are vying for like, the certain teams will win certain games in the playoff and then they move on. But every team, except for one, ends on a low note. And I think it would be nice to kind of go back to just having like a series of like Cotton Bowl champs, Sugar Bowl champs, all that kind of stuff. I know we're not going back. I'm just waxing poetic about it at this point, but still, that's what I think. So I'm hyped for it. I hope you are too. I think it's going to be exciting. All right, we're going to get to Sharon Moore talking about the potential of bringing in a quarterbacks coach. What does he mean? What does that mean? Let's get to that here in just a moment. But before we do, I got to get all set up. Here we go. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment that they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through the matchups and compare the seat views, all of that stuff. Pick a game, tap a section, and have your tickets locked within minutes. No confusion, no hunting. There we go. For fine print, the seat view feature is a game changer. You literally see what the pitch looks like from your exact seat before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets in every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKDOWNCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use the code LOCKDOWNCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. Thank you all for making Locked On Wolverines your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Wolverines with no interruptions. Members only Discord access. I'll be in there shortly. I have not gotten that going, but I will be getting that going, and more for all just for $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to LockedOnWolverines.com. LockedOnWolverines.supercast.com, or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Exciting stuff there. Let's talk about Sharon Moore was asked about Bryce Underwood's development and all of that here. And oh wow, I didn't even finish doing what I needed to do here. I like how I just recognize that just right now. Not that it matters too much. Bryce Underwood's development. And so here's the thing. Yesterday, he had said that there was no plans for any additional changes to the coaching staff. He said that kind of initially, like at first he said not as of yet. Then he was pressed on it. Then he said like, no, there's no expected additional changes. Here's the thing. Like, what is he going to say? He's not going to be like, oh yeah, we're going to clean house. We're going to make like, especially like if this, you're like, okay, I'm going to roll with this staff for the bowl game. He talked about the idea of, not only the players getting better, but the coaches getting better and all of that. Kerry Coombs, by the way, is going to be coaching special teams in the bowl game. That's exciting. And that's very cool. I think you never really see that happen, but I mean, every now and again, sometimes you see the interim head coach the new head coach, Luke Fickell, Wisconsin, in their, the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, back in 2022. Sometimes you see it, but you don't see it necessarily that often. But Sharon's not going to, especially if guys are somewhat auditioning for their jobs, which I think could be a possibility. I don't know that it is for sure. I think then in that type of case, okay, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh yeah, changes are coming. These guys are dead men walking, lame ducks, you're not going to do that. That causes all kinds of problems. But I think what was interesting, because one of the things that we really wanted to see, and I've been talking about it for at least the last week publicly, and certainly longer privately, I might have mentioned it on the show at some point earlier, is that I really want to see Michigan bring in a quarterbacks coach, like a bona fide one. And he said today, like, yeah, Chip is the guy that works with the quarterbacks, but we are looking to bring in someone else. And, he mentioned like, yeah, Josh Synagoga, Travis Russell, those are the guys that are working with the quarterbacks, but we want someone else. Now, the question for me here is, to what caliber are you looking to add someone? Are you just looking to add another like under the radar guy that was going to work with quarterbacks? Are you going to bring in someone that is going to have that Juan Castillo type of role where it's like, okay, he's a longtime guy. He's not the like bona fide, like on field, one of the 10 types of coaches, but he's, working with the quarterbacks and he's really good. Pernell McPhee is kind of in that frame as well. Or is it going to be like, we're going to push someone out that's already here and they're going to go do something else, whether it be at Michigan or somewhere else, like we talked about this weekend. And now we have a quarterbacks coach. Really, honestly, it doesn't matter that much. which one it is, because now that you can have these analysts that work, like now they can't recruit, right? Like that's the kind of the big difference. Like they, and I think maybe that's changed a little bit, but like they can't go on the road and recruit is what I should say. So if you're not getting like like you need all of your 10 to be like voracious recruiters. And I know like Wink Martindale's maybe not that. And I love Wink. But like he's kind of going to be a kind of a closer guy. And I think he'd be the one to tell you that. Like they come to campus and he closes. I think he does a little bit of traveling, but not as much. But like that's fine to me when you have a coordinator. You don't necessarily need that because like the position coaches are kind of more of those guys that and I think offensive coordinators may be a little more important as being like a voracious recruiter than the defensive coordinator in a lot of ways. So I don't really mind if it's like a guy that gets hired. It is technically like an analyst or offensive assistant, whatever it might be. But it needs to be someone that is like a bona fide quarterbacks coach, a bona fide guy who's coached quarterbacks before, preferably has played the position. And just to be able to add to that, just to be able to add to develop Bryce, because like you just don't want to waste what you got. To me, that's the big thing is you just don't want to end up in a scenario where you're wasting his potential because you just like are like, okay, he's so good. He's going to mask a lot of our own deficiencies as coaches, and he's going to do things on his own pace and his own level. And because also he's a hard worker and he's a film junkie and he's, you know, kind of an introvert and all of those things. So those things all work towards Bryce being able to be in like the greatest position that he can be in. But you got to be able to have someone that can hold his hand a little bit and say, like, here's how we're going to get you better. Now, you saw that with Chip Lindsey and Drake May. I know I saw some arguments online. Like Drake May flat out said, like, I got ready for the NFL because of Chip Lindsey. His stats were better the year before, but stats don't always tell you the whole story, right? So because, you know, there's quarterbacks that will have big stats and aren't necessarily next level guys, or maybe they're not high level next level guys. You want that to be the case for Bryce, because this is kind of like, in a way, like if you're Michigan with this pass game and all of this stuff, like you got one shot, guys. And it's this Bryce Underwood thing, because if you don't, like, yeah, you still got Peter Bork and coming in. You've got Brady Smigel and Tommy Carr signed. But like, if you can't get this passing game going and you can't improve it over the next 2 years, like, good luck changing, unless you just have such an overhaul of a coaching staff. I'm talking Sherrod Moore gone and every other coach gone. And like bringing in like well-known guys who are well capable of really doing all those things. Like, this is your shot. Right? Like if you are Sherrod Moore and you want to succeed, if you're going to somewhat stay the course, yeah, you got to go out and get a guy. But I think that's exciting. I think that's very cool. All right, let's talk. That kind of switched the plan as for what segment's what. So be it. Let's get to the potential of some returning guys next year. Let's do that here in just a moment. But before we do, the holidays come with two big goals: feeding people well and finding gifts that they will actually love. And when you want both handled in one move, and it looks like I gotta look down here, Omaha Steaks is the way to go. From hosting to gifting, they deliver the world's best steak experience right to your door. Because during their Sizzle All the Way sale, you can stock up and save in a huge way. 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. And it gets even better. Locked On College listeners get an extra $35 off with the code code college at checkout. I love how easy it is to gift. Shows up frozen, packed beautifully, ready to cook. Steaks are perfectly aged and insanely tender. I see, I need my glasses. Insanely tender. It's a restaurant level at home. So many options: fillets, burgers, comfort meals, sides, desserts. You can build a box for anyone. Holiday magic made easy. Order by 6 p.m. Eastern time and it ships the very same day. Same big on gourmet gifts and more holiday favorites with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their Sizzle All the Way sale. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code COLLEGE at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. It's omahasteaks.com, code COLLEGE. All right, this is teasing that kind of happened today. Well, number one, Sharon Moore kind of intimated yesterday that they're trying to work Justice Haynes back, but could Justice Haynes come back for another year? Now, this one is the one where he was the most like non-committal on. He's like, well, we'll be having those conversations, but it sounds like Michigan's really working to maybe bring Justice back for yet another year, which would be absolutely massive for the Wolverines to be able to have that 3-man rotation. I mean, 4, or 5 or whatever. I mean, they've like, I know there's people that always are like, oh, but people could transfer, whatever. Like, you just can't worry about that. That was one of the problems that Michigan had in previous years, was like, especially like 2020, they had all those running backs and they're like, oh man, well, someone's going to transfer. Worked out pretty well for several years, didn't it? Like, oh, Zach Charbonnet, he's going to transfer. Now, he didn't transfer because the running backs room was loaded or because he didn't get as much playing time in 2020 as he had anticipated. He transferred back home because he was just homesick. It's a big adjustment. Southern California to here. It's December. There's like a foot of snow on the ground at the moment. Like, that's a big adjustment. Okay. But they were so concerned at that time. Like, we got to make everybody happy. You cannot run your football team that way. You can't. I remember having the conversation. It was a long conversation with Zach Shaw on the drive back from Indiana that year in 2020 about like Michigan coddling guys with hopes that like just too afraid that people were going to transfer. So like, the best are going to play. That's the most important thing. Meritocracy, get the best guys on the field any given time. So that's what I think that they need to do. So I would stock up as much as you can. Treat the running backs room the same way Ohio State treats the wide receivers, because that's what you're known for at the moment. Lean into it as hard as you can. I think just as intriguing and more so in some ways is the Sharon says that, hey, well, we're going to be applying for medical red shirts for Mikey Keene and Rod Moore. And yeah, maybe, we don't know yet if they'll come back. He said for Moore, the idea is it's going to be up to his family and his doctors if he returns for another year. But like, that would be huge to get like a potentially healthy, assuming he can actually, now that say the problem's fixed, can actually like fully rehab, get better, see the field for a whole year. I mean, like, that just puts the safety room, because you still have guys that you assume are going to be back. Mason Curtis, I don't know his injury status after the Ohio State game. Brandon Hillman, Jaden Mangum, they've got the young guys, Kanewau Winston, all those. So I think that would be huge to be able to have again for a 6th year. Rod Moore and Mikey Keene just to do what they wanted him to do in the first place, which is push Bryce Underwood. Like, set a standard, show him like what it, how it's done. Now it's going to be a little different. Bryce has got a year under his belt, so that's a little different. So I don't know exactly how that works per se, but still to have veteran leadership there, I think it would be huge. There's a reason why they ended up bringing in Jake Garcia, and it was because Mikey Keene wasn't ready and able to go, and at least you have a little bit more of a safety net if something was to happen to Bryce. Now, Bryce has played every snap at quarterback in meaningful time, right? You've seen some Jaden Davis snaps, but it's been the Bryce Underwood show all year. So I think that's a good place to be. Last thing that I want to get to, I asked Sharon about he was already asked about instant impact freshmen, and he mentioned Savion Hyder, and then he just kind of ran through all of the position groups, like, linebackers, wide receivers. I think there's something to the wide receivers. Linebacker, I kind of don't feel like those are instant impact guys, considering even though that they're losing some guys in the room, the Ernest Hausman thing, he's not really talking on. And obviously he's done as far as his career anyway, pending the bowl game. But like, I wouldn't hold my breath given just like the lack of clarity there. But like, Jay Sean's done and some of those other guys, but I mean, you still got Troy Bowles. You hope you get Jaden Hood back. You've got Nathaniel Usu-Boateng and Chase Taylor and Nicole Sullivan, and, maybe you get Jimmy Roller back for another year. So like, there's a lot of names there. So anyway, I'm digressing hard here. But I asked him, like, who are those under the radar guys that maybe like you feel like the recruiting services should have noticed more, or other teams should have noticed more? And he named 2 guys. He said Marky Walbridge and Alister Vallejo. And he flat out said like everything we've been saying about Alister. Like, kind of a Mason Graham clone, kind of moves the same ways. Like now we don't tell him like you're the next Mason Graham because that's too much to put on a kid. But like you watch the tape and he looks just like Mason. Huge. Absolutely huge. Maybe not for this year, but for next year, that feels like that could be something that really, really works out. So those were my big takeaways from today and yesterday's press conference. We had Zoom yesterday, had in person today. But now the preparation begins in earnest for Texas, and we'll keep our eyes and ears open here for potential transfer portal, because you see guys entering, starting to at least say like, hey, I'm going to enter. But this whole thing is a cluster. I just really wish we could go back to the way things were, because like the transfer portal, for us it was more fun, I think, this time of year of being open, but like now it's open January 2nd through like the 20th. Like that's silly. Like signing day being when it is silly. The bowl game scenario, as far as, you got Notre Dame like just saying like basically they're doing the Eric Cartman, screw you guys, I'm going home, not playing in a bowl game because they didn't make it the playoff. Silly. It's all ridiculous. The people running this thing are running it into the ground. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that used to be into college football. I know several, my guy Josiah, my best friend Doug, that were like college football diehards. Now part of it is, recognizing there's more important things in the world, which I recommend, by the way, no matter what. But like, I feel like the college football, even though it's continuing to escalate in popularity, is just, it's dying a slow, painful death. And it might not look like it because people are watching, but like in terms of like pure interest, I don't know. I think it's just in a bad place in so many ways. Maybe I'm just being old, not changing with the times, but I'll say this: they're killing a lot of the things that I love about college football, and things like Notre Dame deciding, we're eligible for a bowl game, we're not going to do it though. This is the last thing I got here. I at least love that Sherrone Moore is like, that's not the type of mentality we will ever have here. Good. Play games when you can play games. Don't like take your ball and go home because you didn't get the prize you wanted. That's ridiculous. So Florida State had every reason to do that, and they went and got thwapped by Georgia in 2023. So, that's all I got. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.